Hey, what's up, guys? Hope you are doing well. I'm here to talk to y'all about UFC 255, which is going to be a battle of the flyweights since both the women's and men's division titles are on the line. The men's being for Davidson Figueiredo versus Alex Perez, and the women's being Valentina Shevchenko versus Jennifer Maia. I know this pay-per-view hasn't gotten a lot of recognition and gotten a lot of hype. It's kind of flown under the radar lately, but there are some great fighters that are going to be on there. There are some great fights I expect to see to happen as well, all the way from the prelims, the early prelims, and obviously on the main card as well. Some fighters to watch out for on the prelims are Daniel Rodriguez, Brandon Morrival, and Alan Gervon. Other than that, let's go ahead and get into the main card. So, kicking us off, we have a legend in Mauricio Shogun Rua versus Paul Craig. And Mauricio is making a very impressive run right now. So, the legendary Shogun has been testing Father Time, and he's been doing a damn good job at it. This fight's actually going to be a rematch from the last fight that happened in November of 2019 that actually ended in a draw. So, both of these guys already know kind of how each other fights. The biggest thing that's going to happen into this fight is who's going to be able to make the adjustments, learn from the last fight, and apply it into this one. So Shogun is coming off that win over his rival Nogueira, and he's 38 years old and he's given us some remarkable moments in the sport with his kill shot striking, his relentless takedowns, and his vicious ground and pound. So Shogun's staying on top of his game. It's hard to rattle him still. In the first fight, Paul Craig came out there and tried to put the pressure on him early. He tried to pressure him up against the cage, and although they were both exchanging well in the clinch, I think Paul Craig was having his best success out in the open, keeping Shogun at the end of his strikes, using his quickness to strike and get out of the way, but he's also going to have to look out for Shogun's takedowns. In the last fight in round 2, Paul ended up spending most of the round 2 on the ground, and although Shogun didn't do a lot of damage, you could tell that it was frustrating Craig, and he let that frustration kind of go into round 3. I think this fight's going to come down to who can make the better adjustments. Both of these fighters have experience with each other, and unless Paul Craig has a strategy to keep his back off the mat, control the ground, and keep his back off the cage, I believe it's going to be another Shogun show, and I look to see him take the round 3 decision win. Next up, we have a women's flyweight bout featuring Caitlin Chookagian versus Cynthia Calvillo, and Chookagian is coming off that TKO loss to Jessica Andrade, but she's coming into this fight with a lot of things going in her favor. She has the experience of fighting the champ Shevchenko, as well as having the gas tank to go the distance, with multiple of her victories coming from decision wins, and she does very well at staying efficient as the fight progresses. She doesn't get sloppy as the fight continues on. She also has a win over Jennifer Maia, who is fighting for the championship on this card, but we'll get to her later. And to be honest, I don't know much about Cynthia Calvillo, but I know that she throws enough to get her opponents to open up or throw back, and when she sees an opening, she shoots for it, which usually leads to a takedown. Overall, it seems like Chookagian seems to get off to a slower start, and I'm seeing Calvillo get set in her style early and being able to take this to another decision win. Alright, next up we have a welterweight bout between Tim Means versus Mike Perry, and this one is going to be a little interesting. So Mike Perry, this is his first time back after being in the altercation and seeing anger management. That all happened shortly after his victory against Mickey Gall, where his girlfriend was his only cornerman and who will also be there this time around. If it's not broken, don't fix it. To me, Mike Perry is one of the perfect examples of having all the talent that you could be to be successful. I think he's a very talented striker and brawler, but he just has shit for brains. He has given us some exciting fights, but he is lacking consistency still, mostly because he's getting in his own way, and that couldn't be on display even more so by missing weight, which I think he missed by like 5 pounds, and that's just unprofessional. It's disrespectful to your opponent, to the organization, to the fans. It's just a terrible way. I was expecting Mike Perry to come back after his anger management, after the altercation, with a better mindset. What made it even worse was that not only did he miss weight, but he was also just unapologetic about it. If you miss weight, most fighters, what they say is like, I'm sorry, promise to give you all a great fight, apologies to my opponent. Then they come out on fight night, do what they can, win, lose, they take it all on the chin, and then they move on to the next thing. Other fighters have been guilty of this. For instance, Davidson Figueiredo was guilty of this the first time he fought Joseph Benavidez. Anyway, Tim Means is in a similar situation as well. He's trying to get some consistency under his belt, and Means has had success in winning in various different ways, with striking, with submissions, and decisions, so he's pretty well rounded. I think he needs this fight to prove a point if he wants to make a statement in that division. Mike Perry, if you've seen any of his fights, he's a brawler to the end. He literally walks down his opponents, and he doesn't hesitate to shoot whenever he sees an opening. And if he gets you on the ground, he tries to keep you there, either by applying pressure or bouncing your head off the canvas. Mike Perry kind of brings the essence of Yoel Romero in the welterweight division, which kind of means that you don't get to fight Mike Perry, you have to fight Mike Perry. He wins some, he loses some, but either way, it's a tough night out for any of his opponents. And he's definitely not a fighter to take lightly. If he gets you on the ground, he's going to rain down on you with an avalanche of punches. On the other hand, we have Tim Means, and he's a very lengthy fighter. He lives by the take one and give one mentality. He utilizes his movement, utilizes his knees, But the thing about throwing knees is that whenever you throw them, they leave you very off balance, and you are possibly vulnerable to getting taken down, whether it's by your opponent shooting in or by simply tripping you. So Tim Means also does a really good job at controlling his opponent's wrist and their hands, so that it kind of messes with their striking. And he also does a really good job at finding out his opponent's game plans, or at least trying to figure it out, so that he can figure out where to throw his strikes. Although I would love to see Tim Means kick Mike Perry's ass, I see Mike Perry winning in more ways than I do Tim Means. So I will have to give this one to Mike Perry for a first round KO victory. But who knows? Maybe Tim Means will surprise us. All right, next, moving on to the co-main event. So we have the women's flyweight title on the line for Valentina Shevchenko versus Jennifer Maia. So Jennifer Maia is the sister of prominent grappler Damian Maia and is set to fight Shevchenko after a first-round submission victory in her last fight. Maia's most recent loss coming from Chukagian, who we talked about earlier. Meanwhile, Shevchenko has been on an absolute tear through the women's flyweight division. She's on a 5-fight win streak, with her last loss coming to the feather and bantamweight women's champion Amanda Nunes. Jennifer Maia has been able to continue to show off her improvement in her striking and keeping her grappling sharp. So a lot of folks are saying that Jennifer Maia is going to have a big advantage on the ground game, which may be true, but for that to be effective is that she's going to have to be able to outstrike Valentina Shevchenko, to be able to close distance, to get close, and to take her down. That being said, Valentina Shevchenko's biggest strength isn't just in her striking power, isn't in her stamina or her output. To me, her big strength is in her timing. She knows just exactly when to throw a shot so that it's going to land most effectively, and usually she's using her opponent's momentum against them. So overall, I see Valentina staying disciplined and bringing a new level of focus into this fight, which is going to lead to her third round TKO victory over Jennifer Maia. On to the main event. So this one is going to be for the men's flyweight championship this time around, and it's going to be Deiveson Figueiredo versus Alex Perez. And this fight was originally set to be Figueiredo versus Cody Garbrandt, but Cody sustained a bicep tear, so therefore Alex Perez stepped in. So going into this fight, I think Figueiredo is trying to make a statement. You know, he missed weight the first time he fought Joe Benavidez. He eventually won that fight. A headbutt gash led to Joseph Benavidez being busted up and bloody. Figueiredo knocked him out shortly after. Then he came back, made weight, won the vacated championship decisively. But I think in this fight, he's still trying to make a statement to let folks know that he is the true champion and that he's going to be here to make a long title run. So this should be an interesting first title defense for him. Ultimately, Figueiredo is always looking to finish. He has a killer's mentality. He goes in for the kill. He does a really good job at pressuring his opponents and corralling them without them really noticing that they're losing room or that they're backing up against the cage, which forces them into power shots. If not, he's able to control the distance, and that also makes his opponents fight on their heels, so that allows Figueiredo to lean more into a shot so that they land heavier. Although he has raw, ruthless power, one of the things I did notice the second time he fought Joe Benavidez was that he didn't seem very patient with setting up the rear naked chokehold that he was going for. Many times he would let it go, and it eventually led to Joe Benavidez actually being able to stand back up and have a chance to fight back a bit. But eventually he ended up winning with a rear naked choke. But still, and I mean, ultimately he knows if he thought he could finish the choke from there or not. He didn't feel comfortable. He thought he would be able to transition, but it seemed like he had full control of it. Who knows? But on the other side, we have Alex Perez, who is an experienced grappler with some surprising submission finishes. His last loss coming from Joe Benavidez, who was Figueiredo's last opponent. So once Perez gets his opponents on the ground, he instantly starts to smother them, not only with transitions, but also constantly looking for different submissions. In his last outing, he was able to display some of his kickboxing techniques and was actually able to win that fight via leg kicks by immobilizing his opponent. So a very impressive win. His accuracy with his strikes continues to improve. I hope to see some of that in this fight as well. Although Perez is filling in for Garbrandt, I think we might be surprised to see that this fight is much more competitive than what we think it might be. In the end, I see Figueiredo not giving Perez a chance to establish his game plan. I see Deiveson coming in with overwhelming power, relentless striking, and putting him out in either late first round or early second round, and still being able to defend his title and hold on to it. All right, guys, so those are my picks. So let me know who you got picked, if I missed anything, and be sure to follow me on Twitter as well as my gamer tag, DeathTron325. And guys, if you would, please give some of my friends a follow, Nate to the Future, Drigo Unlimited, and Boss7. And if you haven't tuned into the J&J Arcade Cast and you're into gaming, you definitely need to do so. Anything from throwback gaming, game reviews, game updates, console updates, and stuff like that, these guys definitely got you covered with some stories along the way as well. Other than that, guys, be safe, take care, enjoy Thanksgiving, and I will see you on the next video. Thank you.